Folks, we appreciate you being here at our newly launched SEC channel. Please subscribe, hit that bell for the notifications to know when we go live throughout the week. We got Steve Merrill here from Wager Talk. So if you're unfamiliar, Steve drops by each and every week and we post segments for the specific team channels. And we're going to attack the SEC, but you only get a small portion here with a complete look at college football, the NFL, the NBA, and college basketball. Go to wagertalk.com to join Steve right there. Bama coming off a huge win against LSU. It was a back and forth until Bama took control late third quarter. They go to Kentucky to take on the Cats as a 10.5-point favorite, Steve.
Yeah, first thing I do is I always run a 10,000 game simulation through my database for all the games every week. Takes several days to run. It comes out with an average victory. And that's kind of the starting point. I always want to play games where there's value. And Alabama by 12 was the average margin of victory here. Plus, I think you could tack on a little extra with Saban and the need to win after that loss this season. So the value does look like it's on Alabama's side, even though 10.5 is an ugly number because 10 is such a key number. I would still play Alabama in this game. It does concern me a bit that they're on the road after 3 big home games against Arkansas, Tennessee, and LSU. No look ahead, though. They have UT Chattanooga on deck next week. It's a standalone road game, so I think they remain focused. And the fact that they got done a little easier than expected, winning by 14 against LSU is just a 3-point favorite, means they should have something left in the tank. Kentucky is a run-based offense. They don't throw the ball great, though. When they get behind in this game, it's going to make it tougher for them to catch up. So I don't think Kentucky has enough backdoor cover potential to keep it close. If you're going to play it, I would lay it with Alabama minus the 10.5.
Steve's under the radar selection provided exclusively here at the Voice of College Football. Become a Patreon member. You see the information there, patreon.com/MarkRogersTV, or go to the main channel and sign up there. Steve, interesting matchup with Ole Miss going to Georgia. Now, Georgia has, of course, just maintained this undefeated regular season streak that goes back to October of 2020. They're taking on Ole Miss, and Georgia continues to just have workmanlike performances against the likes of Mizzou. They're the latest example by a 9-point margin at home, taking on an Ole Miss team that still has an outside shot to get to the playoff with one loss.
Same point spread, right? 10.5, just like Alabama. The difference is Georgia's at home here. And the other difference is that Mississippi does have a good passing attack. They're averaging 10 yards per pass attempt, but taking on one of the best pass defenses in the country, though. So Ole Miss does have some backdoor cover potential. So I'd like this one at 10 or less, but my database simulation does favor Georgia by 13.5. And like I said with Alabama having some incentive to run up the score because they have a loss, you would think a team that's got the longest streak, hasn't lost in over a year, defending national champs, they've been number one all season, the coaches and AP polls, wouldn't have anything to prove, but they do. We talked about this last week. They're still second in the playoff rankings, the rankings that actually matter. So I think when they can run it up, they will. That backdoor cover, though, does concern me with Ole Miss because they do throw the ball so extremely well. So Georgia, to feel safe, Georgia's going to probably have to be up by like 20 or 21 late in this game. That might be asking a little too much, but they're still the better team overall, I think, actually on both sides of the ball, and we do get some value with them. So once again, if you're going to play it, I would lay it with Georgia minus the 10.5.
Steve, we also have a matchup with, again, Missouri. They dropped in the playoff rankings, which I don't necessarily agree with. If anything, I think their performance in Athens was better than any win they have this year. They kept it a close game. They've got Tennessee at home, and this is basically a toss-up. The Vols are a 1-point road dog.
Exactly. Georgia last week was in that same spot where they could, try to win by margin and impress everybody. And like you said, Mark, they didn't do it. And that's another reason they're still just number 2 in the poll. They only won by 9, or rather Missouri lost by 9 as a 2-touchdown underdog. So they got the cover. And we've talked about this before. When a team covers the point spread, they theoretically outperform the expectations. But it's always about wins and losses with the rankings. And they were up against it. They weren't expected to win the game. I did thought Missouri showed better than expected. You do worry about a little bit of a hangover, a letdown perhaps, though. For Missouri after playing a physical Georgia team. And now they're taking on another really good defensive team in Tennessee who has been surprisingly good defensively. Last year they were so strong offensively. I think people forget how good the defense is this year. And they're actually not throwing the ball that great. And the strength of Missouri's defense has actually been a really good pass attack. Missouri gives up almost 7 yards per pass, but they've played teams that average nearly 8 on average. They've played a tough schedule of opponents. These are 2 good defensive teams. And this total is pretty high considering when you have 2 above average defenses nowadays, you see totals in the low 40s maybe. I think under 40, if you look at this one, under 58.5 has a lot of value. This is a total that probably should be in the high 40s, low 50s, based on the fact both defenses most likely hold the edge. So I like the under in this game.
Folks, 18-5, that should get your attention. Steve has delivered an 18-5 record. That's against the spread. The money line, hey, that would be a great record, but 18-5 against the spread since week 1 of 2022. Where do you get that? Well, it's exclusive here to the Voice of College Football, so we appreciate Steve doing that for us each and every week. And I always look forward to finding out, okay, what's the under the radar pick going to be this week? Last week it was Louisville -10, and they covered, winning by 31 against Virginia Tech. So you get that pick on patreon.com/MarkRogersTV, or you've got an option, become a YouTube channel member over on the main channel. Steve, we appreciate you stopping by, breaking things down for us.
Hey, thanks, Mark.